Hello and welcome to episode 134 from Impossible to Inevitable podcast. I am so grateful that you are here. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. I am so excited about this episode and I really feel like it's going to be a great one. So you chose wisely today. Okay, before we jump in, real quick story. We took the kids to Disneyland a couple of weeks ago on spring break. Now, right before spring break, my oldest daughter, who is 11, she wrapped up a multi-layered project on a famous American. The famous American she was assigned was Louisa May Alcott, who is most famous for writing Little Women. And she did a really great job on this project. So when we were in Disneyland, for the very first time ever, might I add, none of us had ever been. We were so excited to go. It was so fun. When we were there, we saw the statue of Walt Disney holding Mickey's hand. And I was like, look, there's Walt Disney. Isn't that great? And my oldest daughter, again, she's 11, she was like, yeah, someone in my class he was their famous American. They did their project on Walt Disney. And she paused for a second and she's like, I don't really get what he did though. And I was like, what? Okay. So I spent some time explaining to her what Walt Disney did. I spent some time as much as I know off the top of my head, right? I have not read a Walt Disney biography. I have not done research, all of that, but I felt like I knew enough to help her understand what Walt Disney even did. And she's at this point in her life where it's really, really exciting. And I want her to know and to start the ideas generating in her mind and in her heart of the immense possibilities that are available to her. And so as I told her about Walt Disney, I told her about what he did, what he created, what he even did. And I told her that he had struggles, he had failures. I told her that he was even fired once for quote unquote lack of creativity. I told her that it wasn't necessarily easy, but he kept going because he had something that is so, so critical. He had a vision. And sure, he might not have had the vision for Disneyland at the very, very beginning, but that developed and he kept following it and he kept pursuing it. So I told her, I was like, this is really cool, sweetheart, because you get to write your own story. You get to write your own, like how your life goes for you. And being as she had just done a report on an author, she's like, but I don't know that I want to be an author. And I was like, that's not what I meant. This figurative language is not helping me. I told her that she gets to, if someone were to write a biography on her life, they would be writing about her actions and what she did and what she went through and the things that she overcame, the struggles that she had, the things that she pursued. And I kind of gave her an example of what that might look like. And I was like, okay, if somebody were to write a book on you right now, they would write things like, at age 9, she started gymnastics and she pursued gymnastics. And sometimes it was tricky because she had other things that she wanted to do and pursue. And it was on school nights a lot of the time. So then she had to work through doing her homework late at night or, work through whatever it is. They would write about your experience, your choices. And I told her that as she moves forward, that is like writing her story. She gets to write how, she doesn't get to choose all of her challenges, of course, but she gets to choose all of her actions. She gets to choose what she pursues. She gets to choose how she approaches life, what she goes for, what she, what she does, right? So this is called vision. It's called vision. This is something that I really love. I love this whole concept of vision. Now, before you sign off and you're like, wait, is she going down this like manifesting role? Like, is she going down this whole like woo woo whatever topic? Yes and no. Vision is something that you're already doing, and it's totally acceptable, totally socially acceptable. And let me give you a few examples about that before you put the brakes on it. The first one is so easy. I'm sure at some point in your life you have asked a child or a teenager, or maybe you were asked when you were a child or a teenager, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do with your life? What are you interested in? You know, like what do you want to be? This is a question of vision. This is like, what is your vision for your life? How do you see this going for you? What do you want to pursue? And we say it kind of offhandedly a lot, and sometimes we answer it offhandedly, but this is actually a really big deal. And at some point, we stop asking ourselves, we stop asking adults what they want to be. Not necessarily when they grow up, because as adults, you're like, well, I'm grown up and now I have no options. And that's a big fat lie. But we stop asking ourselves what we want to be, what we want to pursue at some point, which is just absolutely ridiculous, because you're never to this place where you're just done, right? Like, you can keep going. If after Walt Disney did the first, black and white animations of Mickey, I'm just in my head, I'm seeing Mickey with the sailboat, right? Whistling. He didn't stop there. He kept building, he kept creating. And then what was next? Snow White was what? Was it Snow White? That was the first princess. He kept building on this vision. And now we have Disneyland and Disney World, and all, like, Disney has just gone on without him because he created such an incredible vision and provided the momentum for it to continue. So that is a question of vision. And then here's another one. Like, you might walk into a dealership and say something like, I see myself in something fast. And now, like, the car salesman isn't going to be like, hey, Tom, we got a manifester in here. Get out of here, lady. He's not going to say that. He's going to be like, all right, let's go look at the fast ones, like, let's go do that. And we say things like, I should have seen that coming, or I saw that coming. And those are expressions of vision. They are expressions of vision, how you see things going for you. And so here's a really sneaky one, a very sneaky one. Do you live in a similar situation as one that you grew up in? Do you have a similar job or a similar career as your parents? Do you live in a similar neighborhood, have similar relationships, just live a similar life as your parents did? There's nothing wrong with that, not at all. What happened there was they modeled for you what life was like. You adopted that in as your vision, and that is what you created. And that's great. Sometimes that serves us very, very well, and sometimes it doesn't. And then there's always the people who grow up in really crappy, really tragic childhoods. They have, like, everything just sucks, and they see that, they experience that, they know it sucks, and the minute they get their power to create something different, they do. Because they're like, you know what, that was awful, I'm not doing that. They create a vision, whether or not they call it a vision, for the life they actually want to live, and then they're hell-bent on creating that. And so they do. So that can go both ways. That can be like, I live a life very similar to my parents, and that was so not for me that I knew that it was so not for me, and now I am going to do something completely different. But the point is the vision, right? That's what it comes down to. Now, your vision gets to be whatever it is you want it to be. There's not a bad choice. There's not no, you're not right or wrong for living or wanting whatever the vision is that you want. It can be as grand as you want it to be. It can be as subtle as you want it to be. My aim is not to tell you what your vision should be. My aim is not to, belittle or question whatever your vision is. My aim is to help you create one that is intentional, one that is true to who you are, true to what you want to create, true to how you want to live. And here's the great thing about vision too, is that you can change it. Like I said with Walt Disney, his vision evolved over time. But what if you buy that fancy sports car and you're driving it for, 8 months or whatever, and you're like, I saw this differently. I saw this going differently. I saw this feeling different. And then you can go make another choice. You can go take it back and you can be like, look, I realized I actually want a ton of space because I like the haul stuff. I want to make sure my tall friends fit in it. I like, my kid has tons of sports gear or music equipment and it just doesn't fit and it's not working for me. And now I realized I really want this. That doesn't make the sports car a bad choice. What that actually does is gives you information, what you actually value. You thought when you went in there, you thought you had the value of like, I want something fast. Like, let's do that. That sounds super fun. But then you realize, well, that's actually not true to my real values. My real values is I want to haul a bunch of stuff. I want to be able to go to Home Depot and pick up whatever I want. I want to be able to fit in, 6 passengers or 7 passengers, whatever it is. I want to be able, like, that is the real fun. That is really what lights me up. So it's just information. So if you've created something in your life that you'd rather like, this isn't my favorite thing, but it's working. Okay, well, what would be your favorite thing? What would be the most incredible thing? What would be the way, how would you prefer it? And what if you could create that? Now, this is not creating this is getting out of the place of feeling like this is all you can have. This is getting out of the place of feeling like, people like me don't make choices like that. My kids do not go to public school for a bunch of reasons. And when I made that choice for them, someone very close to me whom I love so much, they're kind of like, what are you doing? We are not that kind of family. We are not those kind of people. We send our kids to public school. Like, this is what we do. This is what we do. And I was just like, well, it's not what I'm doing. And so you kind of can get pushback on that sometimes. This person has since converted and thinks I'm a genius, but it's fine because that's what's true for me. That's what's right for me and my family and my kids. This is what's right for our path. I'm not saying that public school is bad. I'm saying it wasn't working for us. I'm saying that it wasn't the best choice for us. And so instead of sitting there and being like, I know this isn't working for us, but we don't make other choices. We don't find other solutions. I got up and I was like, no, we are finding other solutions. This isn't working, and it not working for us is unacceptable. So there are tons of reasons why we don't go out and create our vision. One of them being, we're not the kind of people. We don't do that kind of thing. But you can break out of that, just like I did for my girls. I was just like, well, I'm going to do it anyway because I'm in charge of them and I get to make that choice. So you're in charge of your life and you get to make that choice. So this can go really deep as far as creating a vision. There are facets to it. For sure. And very, very early on in the podcast, I think it's episodes 2, 3, and 4, I did a vision training because this is a topic I love. And since I started the podcast 2 years ago, I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. I have created a deeper vision for myself. A lot has happened, right? As you would hope in 2 years, that a lot happens. There's some evolution and there's some growth there. So feel free to go back if you want and listen to the very original vision training because it's so good and something can resonate with where you are now. So a journal prompt for you to take this idea and begin to start on it, right? This isn't going to be the end all be all of the exercise, because you're going to experience the reasons why people don't create their visions. This is kind of the easy part. And I say kind of because it is and it isn't. It's easy because it's super fun to dream and to be in this place of limitless possibilities and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's not easy to be in that place because sometimes we have limiting beliefs and conditioning that are all like, no, settle down. You're not the kind of person who drives a sports car. Settle down. You're not the kind of person who does that. Settle down. You're not the kind of person who does that. And your unhelpful brain, who wants to keep you in your comfort zone, will give you all of the examples that you could ever want to prove to you why you could never do this, be this, have this, create this kind of life. It will give you all of the examples. It will give you all of the evidence that you need to not go for it. And it takes work to overcome that. It takes work to get to the other side of that. And like I said, those people who grow up in really crappy childhoods and create something so totally different and so totally extraordinary from where they came from, they create that by being absolutely hell-bent on it. They create that by being so determined not to live that life that they create something else. It's not a passive thing. It's not just like, oh, you want it and it'll appear. That's not how it goes. If you go to the dealership and you buy the sports car and then you're like, wait, I don't actually want the sports car. I actually really want to be able to have a towing capacity. You have to go back to the dealership. You have to do the paperwork. You have to do the work. You have to, but at the end of all of that, you can have a car or a truck or whatever with the towing capacity. You can have that. It's possible. So, and then vice versa. If you've got a truck with a towing capacity and you're like, well, wait, I'd actually really prefer a sports car, you can have that too. Go back, go do it. Go figure it out. And then if you're like, wait, I really actually want both, there's a solution there too. You just have to get creative. You have to know what it is, set it out there as your vision, and then do what it takes to get there, including working through all the thoughts that say, we're not the kind of people who drive sports cars. We're not the kind of people who has that whatever. We're not whatever. Because all of that's going to come up. All of that is going to come up. And we're going to dive deeper into that actually next week. There's a little taste of that. I went farther on that than I intended, but I got excited and I can't help myself. So all of that, we're going to go deeper on that more next week. And there is so much more where this came from. Like I said, I started this podcast with vision training. This has been one of my very favorite topics, and it hasn't left my awareness. And as I was going through this process for myself just recently, I asked myself, I said, if I could create anything in the world that I wanted to create, if I could build anything in the world that I wanted to build, if I could create any kind of business that I wanted to create, what would I do? What would I do with myself if anything was possible? And this is that's a great journal prompt for you too. I encourage you to write through that. Ask yourself, if absolutely anything was possible, what would you do? What would you create? What would you build? Go write on that. And vision training came up again. And I was like, vision training, what? Like, I've talked about it on the podcast before. Sure, I can talk about it again. And I got this overwhelming sense of, I'm not done with this. So I started to think on it. And I was like, I'm going to host a workshop. I'm going to host a vision training workshop. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to create a guide. I'm going to walk people through this process of creating a vision for themselves. And I am going to help them work through whatever is standing between them and the vision that they want. And I'm going to offer some one-on-one coaching to help people work through this on a weekly basis if they want to. The workshop will be one session long, and then the one-on-one coaching will, of course, the one-on-one coaching will be 12 weeks. The workshop will be one session. I'm going to do this. I'm going to help people create their lives of bold delight, create their vision, work through whatever is keeping them from their vision, and then help them live that. That sounds like so much fun. That sounds like that sounds perfect for me. That sounds like the ultimate for me. And of course, I went down the spiral of I've never hosted a workshop and blah, 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 blah. And I've only coached my friends and blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually very well equipped to do this. This is the actual process. I'm very well equipped to do this. Hosting a workshop is like running the podcast, but longer and with questions and some slides. So anyways, I'm going to give you more next week about why people don't create the visions that they so desperately want. And if you want to dive deeper with me, you can click the link in the show notes to get on my email list to be notified when all of the details come out around the workshop and around the coaching, because as of yet, they are not yet all packaged up with a bow. We're still working on it. And get on my email list and you can get all of those details. So if you want to dive deeper in the workshop, you can do that. And if you want to dive deeper with one-on-one coaching, you can do that. It's all there for you. I'm here for you. I send you so much love. Until next time, bye for now.